I have just been to pick up a very exciting eBay parcel. I'm hoping inside here there is a camera that I've not seen for over 20 years. Okay, so inside this box should be a Canon IXUS M-1 APS camera, which is something I've been wanting to experiment with for a long time. I've never shot APS, never, but I've often had an APS-C digital camera, so it'll be really interesting to see what the results are from this and whether it would be a great street photography camera, because apparently they're so small, they're so dinky that they make great street photography cameras. Unfortunately, it's really, well, almost impossible to get film for. You can't get new film, but eBay, there is some expired film available, and some of that should be arriving today, later on, so I'll be able to go out and shoot this and hopefully get it developed not too expensively, see what the results are like. Right, without further ado, let's crack open this exciting parcel. Ooh, nicely packed. Canon IXUS M1. Wow. Right, so let's get this open. I think it's this way up. Need it to drop out. Little pouch. Strap. When I bought this, they said it had never really been used. So, wow. Instruction manual. Little warning thing. Gosh, this is tiny, isn't it? Look at this. All that packaging for such a tiny little thing. That is minute. I had no idea. I knew it was going to be small, but I've got fairly small hands, and that is tiny. Will it switch on? Does it have a battery in it? No battery. So the first thing is going to be getting a battery, and I really hope it works, because the battery is probably going to cost the same amount as the camera. I wonder what type of battery it takes. Could it possibly be the same one that goes in here? Do you remember I had to buy a new battery for the Canon 620 because I couldn't rewind it because the batteries ran out, and I thought, oh, I can use the batteries from this, and I couldn't, and I had to reuse them. But if that's the same battery, then it will all work out really swimmingly, won't it? I should probably check what it is before I put this in and blow a circuit or something. So this is a CR123, 3 volts. What's it saying here? CR2 3 volts. It's 3 volts. Shall we? This is probably going to be a terrible error. It may not actually fit. No, it doesn't fit anyway, so. Okay, we will have to go and search for a battery. We haven't got any film yet, so while we're waiting for the film to arrive, I have to get the battery. Right, I've got myself a CR2 battery. This cost £4.49. First few places I went to, they were looking at between 10 and 20 quid for these. That's more than the camera cost. So yeah, anyway, let's hope that this works. Let's crack it open, see if we can get any life out of the camera. Yes, we have life. So now we just need a film. Okay, the film has arrived, and here it is. Kodak Advantix Ultra, 40 exposures. This cost me about £8, but it did expire January 2005, so that's nearly 20 years ago. Now, I used some Kodak Vericolor 3 film that was over 30 years old, and I got really good results from it. But I was able to overexpose for a stop per decade, as is the guideline. These cameras, like most point and shoot cameras, 35mm ones, there are no override settings. You can't manually set your ISO. It's DX coded, or the equivalent of DX coded. You can't even get a DX code sticker to stick over this because it's more complicated than that. The cartridges are super clever and they can do all sorts of interesting things, but it means that I can't shoot this as if it was a 100 speed film. it's actually 200 speed. So I'll just have to see what I get. This is just going to go through a standard C41 process at the local lab, and hopefully I will get a decent negative. With modern scanning, I can probably get more out of a thin negative than I could with an optical enlargement in the old days. So I'm hopeful, but we'll have to just keep our fingers crossed and hope that things work. But yeah, I've never loaded an APS film before. It's going to be quite interesting. I think you just pop that open, and there is a slot that's the shape of the canister. You pop it in there, close it, it clicks shut, and it should wind on to the first frame. I've put the strap on here, which has a little nubbin on it, which allows you to depress these little buttons here so you can set the date and time, which I have done. So all this information should be attached to the film. The other interesting thing about this camera before I set off is there are 3 different settings, which I think is the same with all APS film cameras. You can have one that's kind of almost TV ratio, then you've got your standard aspect ratio like a 35mm one, and then you've got a panoramic ratio as well. So I'm going to enjoy trying all those out. But before I can do that, I need to load up. So let's be brave and crack open this box of ancient film. It has been opened before. Haha. Said it was unopened. That's not unopened, is it? Let us hope that it's not exposed already. Oh, so there's a little tub inside it. See that? It's actually a tub. That is the film itself. To give a bit of context, I think I've got somewhere in here, that is a roll of 35mm. And the thing that I am pleased to see is that on the end, the number 1 position is blocked, because that means it's not been used. Partially used, it actually says on the side, partially used would be a half frame there. Fully exposed, an X. Processed is that one. So this is ready to use. So fingers crossed. There's no film sticking out. It's completely closed off. And I think there's like something that goes in here which allows that to open up and let the film out. The film is thicker than 35mm film. So that's another difference. Right, let's get it loaded up. So it goes in with this facing up, I believe. Like that. If you close it, I can hear it winding on. It flashed at 40 and then went to 1, and there's now a little sign that says that it's loaded. Right, I think we're ready to go and shoot 40 frames of APS film. So I've decided to head to Withington village, which is quite close to the lab where I get my colour stuff processed, so I can take a few pictures there and get the film in quickly. Withington is kind of an interesting place. There's usually some street art there. I think they're doing some work to pedestrianise bits of the village centre, so that might make some interesting pictures. And yeah, basically it's close, so they might not be the most interesting street photographs I've ever taken, but this is mainly a camera and film test, so I hope you'll bear with me. I hope we'll get something good. You never know. So when I got into Withington, I took a few snaps, and you can see from this that the film had survived its 20 years on the shelf and it was producing images. I think there is a slight colour shift here, and there are other things that I will talk about later that are issues with how this camera operates and how the film operates. But for now, at least you can see that there are some images appearing. So I've actually gone further than Withington. I've ended up in Fallowfield, which used to be student central. I think it still probably is a bit, although most students have shifted towards the city centre. That was a Revolution bar, I remember back in the day. It's now a kebab shop, whereas everything else used to be a kebab shop and now seems to be a barber's, or yeah, it's changed a lot. But it looks like it might still make some good pictures, so let's try and grab a few. I quite like the geometrics here of the bar, and I thought it was quite interesting where there were a couple of posters that had been torn down and left just the brick wall behind. I kind of always like those emptiness pictures. And as I was passing along the street, I saw some discarded breakfast, lunch or dinner, not quite sure what it was, but I thought this would make a nice test of the focusing, as it was something a bit closer to the camera than what I've been taking pictures of before. There's a big international supermarket on this stretch of road as well, and I thought it would be nice to see how the colours of the vegetables were reproduced by the film and whether I would get good sharpness. Also, there's a really interesting juxtaposition of a cache point behind some fruit, which I thought was kind of nice. So walking through Fallowfield, and I found myself by the Owens Park Tower, which used to be like one of the main halls of residence, and it now appears to be completely being demolished. So let's get a picture of that before it goes. I got a couple of nice snaps of that, and it's kind of interesting because there's a parallel with a photograph I took of another university building being demolished several years before. That's the Maths Tower on Oxford Road, and it's kind of a similar look. So here I am in Plattfields Park taking a little break. This is as far as I'm going to go, and then I'm going to walk back to the lab and get this processed, but I've still got a few frames left to shoot. What do I think of it so far as a replacement for my 35mm walk around street photography camera? I really like it, but I can see some flaws. The first one is obviously the APS thing, that I can't get new film for it. So although the film I can get is actually cheaper, I can't guarantee it's going to come out, and I don't know whether it's going to be from reel to reel going to give me the results. And when I go out and take street photos, sometimes it's like that is the decisive moment, and if I've missed it, I've missed it. It's never going to happen again. So not sure I want to risk it with this. The other thing is, as long as you keep it open, it sticks to the setting that you've got it on. But as soon as you close it, it defaults to the auto setting, which with this film on this grey day means that the flash goes off every time. And I don't want the flash going off because it ruins the picture and it draws attention to the photographer. But it is so tiny, it's so cute. It fits in my pocket, it's light, and it's been fun to take it out around this bit of South Manchester. But yeah, probably not for the long term. But we'll see, we'll see. Right, while I'm sat here, I think I'll get myself a selfie. There's some really lovely autumn colours here in Plattfields Park, but it'd be interesting to see how they come out on this old film, because I imagine the colours will have shifted or faded somewhat. And indeed they have shifted very badly, and this purple halo, which affects almost all the photographs, which I imagine is fogging and discoloration of the film through age, really just makes this not worth having. But that's why we test these things, and it's interesting to see what we get. This next shot is actually really lovely, and I think the exposure makes it look quite beautiful. And this is another one definitely for the panorama. So I suppose it's time I actually talked about these modes, because all the pictures I've shown pretty much so far have been 16:9, or I've cropped them to 4:3, but the camera only shoots 16:9. It doesn't matter which setting you select. It's a digital process that the lab does later that decides what your prints look like. I'll talk about it in more detail at the end, but I'm just cropping this picture to the panorama so you can see how it was supposed to look. And as we're just after bonfire night, there's some lovely little reminders of bonfire night here. I wonder if it'll focus this close. It should do. Got an interesting fallen tree there, made more interesting by the fact that somebody's left their jacket on there. I don't know if they're having a sleep on it or what, but anyway, it makes it a little bit more of a feature. Again, here I've cropped to the panorama mode. There was a lot of other material to the top and the bottom, but this was very much framed as a panorama. And if I add back the detail at top and bottom, you can see it's a very different shot. I actually kind of prefer it myself. So I've noticed a couple of times when I've tried to shoot this, it hasn't fired. My finger was a little bit close to the sensor that does the autofocus, so it thought it was too close to focus and didn't fire. It's such a small camera, it's so easy to get your fingers in the way. The operating instructions did sort of say, oh, be very careful, hold it this way. but it's not the way you would normally hold a camera. So it's something else to put in the list of reasons why I probably wouldn't use this. It's such a shame though, because the viewfinder is lovely, and I've had real fun with trying out the different modes. The panoramic mode particularly has been very exciting, even though I know it's only a crop. Right, anyway, I've got just a couple more frames left. I'm going to shoot those off now and then to the lab. So this here is actually a bit of history, I think. That is the first McDonald's drive-through in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and it's still pretty much as it was when it first opened. And I'm hungry, so I'm going to go get something to eat. So yeah, I've cropped this to 6x4, although I actually shot it as panoramic because it just didn't work as a panorama. So it's nice to have that flexibility. So shot number 40, the last one. It's not 7:58 as it says on this clock here. Hopefully that's the only thing that isn't working properly on this camera, because I think I've got a couple of nice shots. I mean, basically I've just been testing it out, so I've not gone to a great deal of effort, but it would be nice to get just a couple of good shots back. Let's see. Right, let's fire this last one off. It's taking its time to rewind, but then these things always do. Hope that picture of the post office came out. It could be quite nice. And there we are. The flashing icon means I can take it out. There we have it. One exposed roll. It should say exposed on the thing there. Let's go to the lab. So here we are with the developed negatives from DS Color. Thanks again to those guys. They always do a great job for me with my color processing and stuff. So it was really great. They got these done for me very, very quickly. And as you will see, they have opened the canister, so I am able to pull out the negative for scanning. DS Color do scans, and their equipment does read the magnetic information to create an index print. But I always like doing my own scanning and keeping control of as much of the process as possible. I don't know if this is going to fit into my normal negative carrier, but we'll give it a go. I'm going to try and use my usual 35mm scanning holder to hold everything flat. Because the frames are smaller than 35mm, I think I can get them in the right place without having to do any chopping, changing or alterations, and then I will reel this back into the canister for safekeeping in case I need to do anything with it in the future. Let's see if we can get these scanned. So, as has been obvious from watching the video this far, I was able to scan the negatives without too much trouble. A little bit softness at either side. I had to use double the extension tubes that I would usually use to account for the smaller negative. So there's a little bit of softness at the sides. The colour shifts, partly to do with the age of the film, a small amount to do with my scanning, no doubt. But if you compare film scanned at the same time with the same settings, you can see that it's not my scanning that is completely at fault. There is a difference between those frames. But anyway, what about the results? Here are a few of my favourite shots and some of the other shots that I haven't shown already as part of the video. So there you go, shooting APS film on the IXUS M1. I hope you enjoyed that little blast from the past. If you'd like me to do more things like that, do let me know in the comments because I enjoy doing things like that, but I don't know if you enjoy watching them, and if you don't, I'll just do them off camera. So yeah, I'll be back with some slightly different content very soon, a bit more philosophical. Hope you like that. If you don't, again, let me know and I'll philosophize off camera. But that's it for this time. Thanks so much for watching. Please do like, subscribe, share. As always, that really helps me out. I will see you again very soon. Until then, take care. Bye for now.